Welcome to the third and final Andy Goldsworthy lesson that I will be doing. For this one we're going to focus on working with wood. So before I even start, I went back on the internet and looked at the Andy Goldsworthy images. I'm really familiar with Andy Goldsworthy's work by now. I've looked at it lots, even previous to this project, but now I've been looking at it so much recently, you'd think I would have an idea in my head about what I wanted to do. But actually I think that it's really worthwhile refreshing yourself. I've seen some images today that I haven't seen before, and just getting an idea of the sort of work that I really like that he does, and the sort of installation that I would like to make myself inspired by his work. So I'm actually going to go off into the woods to make my installation, but before I go I've done a little bit of preparation. I've gathered together some things I think I might need. I'm going to use secateurs. If you're going to use secateurs, you do need to check with your parents that that's safe. I actually know a grown man who's cut his finger off with these, so they are actually genuinely quite dangerous. Scissors obviously might be useful. I've got some green gardening wire which is plastic coated, which I think would be really good for possibly tying things in together, and just some string, which is why I needed the scissors. I've also collected from my garden some bits of twine or vine that I think will be useful for binding things together. This one is a Virginia creeper, which I've used before to weave things together, and I know it's really good because it doesn't snap too easily. And I've also cut some jasmine down from a plant that I've got growing in my garden, and these again, they're very bendy and whippy, so they might be good for tying things together. I don't know for definite that I'll need them, but I might not find things like this in the woods when I'm making my installation, so I'm going to take them with me now. Okay, I'm all ready to go. So normally, when I've asked you to do an Andy Goldsworthy installation, I've suggested you do a lot of rehearsing first. For this piece, I'm going to get just straight stuck in. I've got an idea in my head of what I'm wanting to make, a nice little dome shape, and I want to make a hole in the centre, because having looked at Andy Goldsworthy's work, those are the bits, the ones that I really like the most. I'm going to make it around here because I think the bluebells frame it really well. And I've also chosen a location that is quite close to the path, so passers-by can see it as they go, you know, on their daily exercises. So I'm going to start straight in with my actual piece, but that means that because it's quite likely I won't get it right first time. So there may be times when I have to take it down and put it back up again, and I think it's going to be quite a lengthy process. So I'm just going to get stuck in, see how it goes, and adjust it as I go along. Here we go. So it's quite difficult to form the shape, like so many things that you see from Andy Goldsworthy, whose work just looks so beautiful and yet incredibly simple. It often looks like it would be really easy to make, and yet in reality it's quite difficult. Like so many things in art, it's the craft of finessing it that makes something look really, really interesting. So I found with this piece that I wasn't very happy with it to start with. I felt it looked very lumpy. But like so many things in art that I'm talking to those of you that come to my regular lessons, you may feel you've finished because you've got the whole thing together. But very often you're only halfway through, and half of your time will be spent on those final details, which are the thing that makes your artwork look really worthwhile. And also, to be honest, they're the fun bit, getting the details exactly right. So I'm just going to carry on with this for a little bit more, and I'm looking back and looking at the shape. I'm starting to get a nice shape on this side and this side. It needs a little bit more work over there. As I'm doing it, I'm not just putting them everywhere there's a hole, but I'm looking at the overall shape that's forming, trying to think about my curves and the shape of my perimeter and building it up, and also the pattern that the sticks are starting to create. So I thought it would be interesting to do a suspended installation. Andy Goldsworthy does quite a few where he actually stitches the pieces together very carefully to create an exact circle, but I'm going to try and make something in this gap here which is based on a circle but is actually not using anything other than natural materials. So I've gathered up some honeysuckles and vines. I've got a little bit of the jasmine that I brought from home, and I'm going to try to start to create a circle. So I've taken some of the honeysuckle already and woven it into a circle, and I'm going to try and strengthen that up. You can only make a circle by kind of weaving and twisting, very much like you'd make a natural wreath, but this will only work with quite new young plants, so you really want green things for this. And when I say green, I mean fresh rather than actually the colour blue. So, obviously I found it too hard doing that standing up, so I have decided to work on the ground. It's a little bit easier. I'm trying to weave my vines in and out without snapping them. Creating a circle, but also keeping some of their natural shape about it as well. So I've got very little leaf on this. I haven't quite decided whether I'm going to keep the leaf in or not yet. It's a good idea when you're doing something like this to make sure you don't start and finish at the same place each time. So you need to be working with different lengths. When you get to an end like this, tuck it in to your form so that it's not sticking out making a weird bit, and then you can carry on. So when I carry on, because I know I've got an end bit here, I'm going to get my next bit starting further along here where the shape is a bit stronger, so I don't end up with all my ends at the same place. Sometimes it's easier to pull them through rather than push them the other way around. However you find it, so just experiment with a bit, see how you can make it work. And I've now got to a bit where my leaves are. I think I'm going to include them for now, but if they don't look right, I can always take them out again later. So I've now got my circle formed, which I want to attach into the trees here. And if I can, I want to do that without actually using any visible things to hold it, but I think it's going to be too difficult to do that and have it holding firmly. So I'm going to use some of my wire for this, but I'm going to try and make sure that the wire is concealed within the structure so that it's a very small amount and so it doesn't show very easily. So this is the green gardening wire that I told you I was bringing from home. I may well fix it loosely to start with and then come back and do an invisible fix once I've got it firmly in place. It's really important when you're doing landscape art that you think about the environment you're in. Andy Goldsworthy is obviously an environmentalist. He's not just interested in making art in the environment, he is interested in the environment. So it's important that when we do these pieces, we're not doing anything that harms the environment. So I'm being careful to make sure I hold on to all my little bits. I'm not actually using anything I take down, and not damaging any of the plants. I have harvested some vines as I've gone, but I've taken them from really strong plants that have got plenty of growth, and I've used a plant that is prolific in this area. I wouldn't pick something that was endangered in any way, and I also wouldn't pick anything from the roots. So I've now got quite a firm starting point that I can weave around. So what I want to create now is just a look of complete randomness. I don't want this to look like it has been woven or shaped. I want it to look like it's just growing there and happens to have randomly created a complete circle in the centre. So keeping this bit completely clear, but with lots of growth around it, almost like creating a window into nature, framing the environment around us. I'm going to return to my circular form with these pieces, but again, not trying to make it too contrived or too controlled looking. Tucking my ends in so that it won't look scruffy, and also will make it hold a little bit firm, a little more firmly. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Now it's your turn to go out and get creative. Remember, stay safe and don't break any of the rules. And if you'd like to see a written version of this lesson plan, then there is one available on my website, which is andreafarndonsartworks.co.uk. Have fun!